I'm going to eliminate every non-essential, expensive program I can find. That includes Obamacare, and I'm going to work to reform and save.
There you hear it, our second story out front. Boos for Mitt Romney when he tells the NAACP he wants to repeal Obamacare. But if you think that puts him on the defense, think again.
Hola, soy Craig Romney. Quiero decirles cómo es mi padre, Mitt Romney. Él es un hombre...
Romney is rolling out a new ad with his son Craig, who speaks Spanish, asking Hispanic voters to give his dad a chance. The conservative group, American Crossroads, is slamming President Obama for unemployment among women. And the Republican National Committee continues its furious assault over jobs that have gone overseas. African Americans, Hispanics, women, working class folks, this is clearly a broad attack on President Obama's base, trying to make him defend his advantage among those voters. Out front tonight, Marc, Lamont, Hill, David From, and Ruben Navarrete. Let me start with you, Marc. The chances of Mitt Romney winning any of these groups would be slim?
Slim to none.
Slim to none. Slim to none. But he doesn't have to win.
No, he doesn't win.
All he has to do is make some of these people in these various groups start thinking twice about whether or not Barack Obama has really helped them and make them feel like not going to vote this fall.
Right. He wants to help de-energize the base. That's the best he can do. He also needs to show independent voters that he's not some radical wingnut who wants to alienate black voters. He's not going to get more than 5% of the black vote, just like John McCain. But he can make some headway.
Do you think he made any headway? I mean, people. Look, well, listen. No,
he get booed is not a good sign.
Yeah, but that was part of it. He got applauded in other parts of it. For example, when he talked about charter schools, when he said this is a way of helping people, when he talked about taking on unions when they stand in the way of schools getting better. He got applauded for that.
One, people rarely vote on education reform, and the charter school thing, the voucher thing, are things that President Obama has been somewhat ambivalent on. Most Democrats and Republicans actually don't wildly disagree on education issues, largely because they don't know much about them. So I don't think that'll be a deciding factor. The stuff that he did draw boos from were health care and the personal tax on the president, both of which not only made him look unstatesmanly, but also alienate black voters. I don't think he got one vote in the House that night.
Well, let's go to David From right now, because David, you said, you tweeted, if I were a political cynic, and you are, by the way, I'd wonder whether the Romney campaign wanted to be booed at the NAACP. All right, explain yourself.
Well, in fact, Mitt Romney was on Fox Business Channel this afternoon and said he expected to be booed. So they put things in there they knew were likely to drive a negative response, and they omitted to say a lot of things that could have elicited a positive response. Black America has been hit very hard by this grinding recession. And although there's going to be a lot of emotional commitment to the president to really go into what this recession has meant for Black America, not only in terms of the catastrophe in the private economy, but the black middle class and professional class, heavily represented at the NAACP, is heavily reliant on public sector employment, especially at the state and local level, where the layoffs have been most intense. That visual you showed of Mitt Romney being booed, it's not a very nice visual, but there are also a lot of people in the Republican base, people who are the people who like Mitt Romney least, who may be energized in their turn by that side.
All right, maybe. Let's look at the cynic. Let's look at the unemployment rate. You get the cynical award tonight, David. Let's look at the unemployment for June. I want to look at this graphic here. White unemployment 7.4%. Black unemployment, 14.4%. Hispanic unemployment, 11%. Ruben, jump in here. Same question that I was asking a minute ago to Marc here. Do you think in any way that the message from Mitt Romney, if he attacks all these groups and says, what has this president done for you, he can dampen their enthusiasm?
Oh, absolutely. He can dampen their enthusiasm. I agree with Marc. He's not going to be able to turn them against Barack Obama, but he can get them from turning out. He can prevent them from turning out. There's a great sense of ambivalence, I think, in many communities, and a touch of it in the African-American community, about the fact that while they personally like this president and support him, they really wish he had been more in their corner on a variety of issues. And you mentioned one of them, not just black unemployment across the board, but specifically black unemployment among teenagers, among young African-Americans, and how incredibly bad that's been, north of 30%. So I think a lot of people are supportive of the individual, but they don't much like his policies. And frankly, when you get down to it, a lot of those liberals on the left and the coalition you mentioned earlier, they think he's been far too conservative, too inclined to cave into Congress and to Republicans in Congress. And all things considered, they wish he had handled things differently.
We're running a little short here, Marc. What are you thinking?
I totally disagree. I'm not convinced that black people or anyone or that black people are disappointed in President Obama's policies. I don't think that's true, and there's no study to suggest that. Are some people on the radical left disappointed that he wasn't radical enough? Absolutely, but that's an energized base, and they're going to vote for a lesser of two evils. I happen to think President Obama was too far to the middle, but I'm still going to vote for him because he's the best option I have.
David Frum, what does President Obama need to say right now if he wants to somehow blunt this message from Mitt Romney, who's clearly trying to upset his base?
It's past the point of saying anything. There has been an economic debacle and a terrible economic pain. And words are not going to convince anybody, especially after this summer's repeated bad news. We seem to get bad news every summer, and this summer we've had more bad news. The people whom the president needs, they know what's going on without a word spoken by any politician.
Well, Ruben, as you know, we all have to sacrifice in this time of need. We're out of time. So you lost your last comment. That's one I owe you next time. All right. Thanks, Ruben, David, and Marc.